Slane Theocracy. The Slane Theocracy is one of the oldest human nations in the New World, and it has a very unique identity. You see, unlike most countries that focus on kings or nobles, this nation is built on religion. At its core, the Theocracy worships 6 great gods who are said to have descended from another world hundreds of years ago. The government itself is led by the Pontifex Maximus, who holds power similar to an emperor. He works with the Supreme Executive Council. This council is made up of 6 cardinals, along with the heads of the legislature, judiciary, and executive branches. They are considered the highest religious leaders, and they hold more authority than ordinary government officials. There's also the Grand Marshal, who commands the military, and the head of the Research Institute for Magic Affairs. Now, the Slane Theocracy is known for its strong belief in human supremacy. To them, humans are the chosen race of the 6 gods. Because of this, the Theocracy is extremely hostile toward non-human races like elves, beastmen, or demi-humans. The descendants of the 6 great gods are revered as godkin. To preserve their bloodlines, the Theocracy even allows polygamy, though a man can only have up to 2 wives. Then you have the Miko princesses. These women are chosen as important religious figures, each tied to one of the 6 gods' elements. They wield powerful sacred items, but because of that, they're treated almost like living sacrifices. Altogether, there are 6 Miko princesses. Because faith is at the center of their culture, the Theocracy has built advanced systems for training divine magic casters. Their literacy rate is high, and they have their own magic school focused on faith-based magic. When compared to neighboring countries, their civilization is considered more advanced, and their clerics are usually more skilled than those of both the Re-Estize Kingdom and the Baharuth Empire. The military of the Theocracy is also very different from that of other nations. Instead of just relying on regular soldiers, they have powerful special groups known as scriptures. One of the most famous is the Black Scripture. This is an elite unit made up of the strongest warriors and spellcasters the Theocracy can produce. Each member is extremely powerful, and they are meant to protect the nation from any crisis. For example, one member is said to have a weapon given by the 6 gods themselves. Each of the scriptures has its own specialty. The Sunlight Scripture is deployed against demi-humans. The Black Scripture handles top-secret missions. The Windflower Scripture focuses on intelligence gathering, while the Clearwater Scripture excels at infiltration. The Holocaust Scripture specializes in assassination and counterterrorism. And finally, the Ashen Dust Scripture is tasked with protecting the nation's sacred places. The Theocracy also does a lot of secret stuff behind the scenes in the New World. Back in Season 1, they tried to shake up the Re-Estize Kingdom by sending the Sunlight Scripture to assassinate Gazef Stronov. Later on, they even sent out the Black Scripture to fight the Catastrophe Dragon Lord. But when they encounter Shaltir, they pull out the world item called Downfall of Castle and Country to take control of her. That attempt partially failed, and the user of the world item eventually died. Over 100 years ago, the Theocracy's ties with the Elf country completely fell apart after the Elf King captured and assaulted the Ace of the Black Scripture. In Volume 15 and 16, the Theocracy finally moves to assassinate the Elf King and conquer the capital. Their long-term goal is to use the Elf lands as a shelter in case they ever go to war with the Sorcerer Kingdom. But this plan backfires when the Sorcerer Kingdom interferes, capturing their assassin and uncovering the truth about their role in Shaltir's brainwashing. This enrages Ainz, who then orders Albedo to prepare for war. Re-Estize Kingdom. The Re-Estize Kingdom was once one of the 3 human nations that bordered Nazarick. With an estimated population of 9 million, it stood northwest of Nazarick. However, the kingdom was plagued by corruption, civil unrest, and endless struggles between nobles and the royalty. Even Gazef Stronov once said that this problem had existed since the very beginning of the kingdom. In the end, the nation collapsed completely, and its lands became part of the Sorcerer Kingdom. You see, the kingdom was founded more than 200 years ago, after the defeat of the evil deities. By the time King Ramposa III took the throne, the country was already rotting. By trying to control the nobles, he only pushed them to band together into what became the nobility faction. His supporters, on the other hand, formed the royal faction. The kingdom was run as a feudal monarchy, and over time, 4 main political groups emerged. Aside from the royalty and the nobility faction, there are independents composed of nobles who didn't side with either group. And finally, after the huge battle at Cat's Plains, a new faction made up of the surviving 2nd and 3rd sons of noble families was formed. On paper, the Re-Estize Kingdom had a large army, somewhere between 200,000 and 400,000 soldiers. But the thing is, most of them were just peasants forced to fight, with almost no training. Among the 3 big human nations, their military strength was considered the weakest. The only true elite was the warrior troop, led by warrior captain Gazef Stronov. The royal knights, who guarded the royal family, were also properly trained. Beyond that, powerful nobles like Marquis Raven kept private adventurer forces of their own. Inside the kingdom, a crime group called Eight Fingers operated freely. They ran illegal trades and bribed nobles and even royals to protect themselves. This is where Princess Rainier comes in. On the surface, she seemed like the kingdom's biggest hope. In the story, she led the fight against a dangerous group called Eight Fingers. She even teamed up with the adamantite adventurer group Blue Roses, along with Gazef and Marquis Raven to take down the Syndicate. But the truth is, Rainier was already working with Nazarick. She had her own secret reasons, mostly her obsession with climb. According to Albedo, Rainier suggested almost 90% of the plan to bring down the kingdom. During the fake demon attack on the capital, she played her part perfectly. Later, when Ainz prepared to conquer the kingdom, she fully sided with Nazarick, giving up her humanity so she could stay with Climb forever. Basically, this yandere turned into an imp, and she sold out her own country to the Sorcerer Kingdom, even forcing Climb to abandon his humanity. At this point, it's not even the angle of I can fix her anymore. The downfall of Re-Estize began when Ainz unleashed a single super tier spell, La Shub Nagarath, that wiped out the royal army in the Kotz Plains. Prince Barbro, sent to Karn village, was also put to the graveyard by Lapis Regina Beta, and Warlord Enri the Bloody's goblin troops. Gazef himself died after a duel against Ainz. With these losses, King Ramposa fell into despair, and the throne passed to Zanak. But the new crown prince could not save the nation. Baharuth Empire. Located northeast of Nazarick, the empire was founded over 2 centuries ago. For much of its history, it was one of the most powerful nations in the New World, until it ultimately became a vassal of the Sorcerer Kingdom. The thing is, the empire didn't always look the way it does under the Bloody Emperor. 3 generations before the reign of Jerkneve, the empire resembled the Re-Estize Kingdom, functioning as a feudal state governed by powerful nobles. That changed when Jerkneve's grandfather created an absolute monarchy. According to the web novel, when the previous emperor died, the throne passed to his teenage son, Jerkneve. Rumor spread that his mother had poisoned the old emperor. But once Jerkneve wore the crown, he proved to be far more dangerous. He ordered the execution of his entire family and eliminated any nobles who might oppose him. These basically secured his throne, and from that point onward, he was known as the Bloody Emperor. And yet, Jerkneve also became one of the most capable leaders the empire had ever seen. On top of being the owner of the highest specs in the world, his charisma is maxed out. After gaining power, Jerkneve continued to weaken the nobility. He took away privileges from corrupt nobles, and promoted capable commoners to higher positions. Compared to the kingdom, the empire had a higher standard of living. According to the web novel, Jerkneve introduced stricter rules on how servants could be treated. This forces owners to compensate if their servant was injured. Jerkneve also founded the Imperial Magic Academy, a state-run school built to gather gifted young people and train them in the arcane arts. According to Nina, the Empire's institutes mainly focus on raising their own arcaners, sorcerers, wizards, and other magic casters. The Baharuth Empire soldiers were full-time warriors. The Empire was supported by Knight Orders, special units that reported directly to the Emperor, and the Imperial Ministry of Magic, which oversaw magical research and weapons development. Specifically, the army was divided into specialized branches. The Royal Air Guard commands the aerial force using flying beasts and magic. The Royal Earth Guard are knights directly loyal to the Emperor. The Royal Guard are defenders of the Imperial Palace. The 4 Imperial Knights are Jerkneve's personal champions. And the 8 Knight Orders are units responsible for policing and maintaining order. For years, Jerkneve waged annual wars against the Re-Estize Kingdom on the Kotz Plains. These battles drained the kingdom's strength while keeping the Empire's own casualties low. The Empire's advantage grew even more because of certain nobles. Talking to you, Marquis Bloomrush. Within the kingdom secretly linked information to Jerkneve. After hearing from Fluter, the Empire's court wizard, about the existence of the mysterious tomb, Jerkneve sent a group of workers to explore it. But that tomb was actually affiliated with Nazarick, and the expedition ended in total disaster. In reality, it had been a trap all along because Fluter had already pledged loyalty to Ainz. When Jerkneve finally met Ainz face to face, he was shaken to the core. Outwardly, he signed an alliance. But deep down, he began secretly plotting to form a grand alliance of human nations to resist Nazarick. That plan fell apart at the Battle of Kotz Plains. The Empire soldiers had marched beside Ainz that day, and when they saw the scene, many resigned in fear. Desperate, Jerkneve attempted to forge an anti-Sorcerer Kingdom alliance with the Slane Theocracy. However, during their meeting, Ainz himself appeared, shattering any trust the Theocracy had in the Empire. In the end, Jerkneve asked Ainz to make the Empire a vassal state of the Sorcerer Kingdom. What he didn't realize was that Ainz hadn't actually shown up to stop his secret meeting with the Slane Theocracy in the first place. Elf Country. The Elf Country is an unofficially named nation located south of the Slane Theocracy. The nation has been locked in a brutal war against its human neighbor for years. Strangely enough, there was once a time when the Elf Country and the Slane Theocracy were on friendly terms. That changed when the Elf King impregnated the ace of the Black Scripture. She was eventually rescued, but she bore a child from the king's cruelty. From that moment, the Theocracy declared war of vengeance against the elves. While the Theocracy advances slowly due to the thick forests of the elves' residence, the outcome is already tilting heavily against the elves. Countless have been captured, and the Elf Country is clearly on the losing side. According to Volume 11's Intermission, the Theocracy committed the Holocaust Scripture to the war effort, accelerating their advance into Elven territory. The Elf King was begged to save his people, but the Elf King dismissed their pleas, mocking his own people as weak and worthless. Even when the Theocracy built camps that would soon threaten the royal capital itself, the king laughed it off, refusing to use his power for them. The only reason the elves managed to hold out against the Theocracy's overwhelming strength was because of their guerrilla tactics, which they were better at than the Theocracy, and the Theocracy's fear of losing soldiers to the monsters in the Great Forest of Ivasha. This slowed their advance. Compared to humans, a much larger part of the elf population can fight. With their druids and rangers, they're perfectly adapted to life in the forest. Their army relies heavily on guerrilla tactics in ways that even the Holocaust Scripture struggles to completely counter. Most of the population is made up of wood elves, with a small number of wild elves and dark elves who migrated from the north 300 years earlier. Across the New World, any elf with heterochromia eyes is seen as carrying royal blood. There are also half-breeds, born from elves and other humanoids, though they remain rare. Since the ground is crawling with monsters, the elves build their villages high up in the trees. These villages are small, usually no more than 200 people. Druids shape massive tree homes to protect them, but attacks still happen often. Hill Dwarf Kingdom. The Hill Dwarf Kingdom was once the homeland of the Hill Dwarves, who lived in the Abelian Hills, but that kingdom no longer exists. In the web novel, it's said to have been destroyed by heteromorphs like goblins, ogres, and orcs in the Abelian Hills. After its fall, the Abelian Hills became a lawless land, where countless heteromorph groups fight each other day and night. Other demi-human tribes like the Dark Dwarves also live there. Hill Dwarves themselves were distant relatives of regular dwarves. Unlike their mountain kin, they had a natural affinity for the ranger profession and sharp senses of direction. Inveria. Inveria was once a humanoid nation that existed in the New World 200 years before the start of Overlord. The nation had a population of 5 million. Most were Rainbow Eyes, who made up 90% of the population. Evil Eyes believed to have destroyed the nation. This earned her the title Landfall. According to her, Inveria was in the far southeast of the Re-Estize Kingdom, and its capital was cleansed by fire. In an alternate timeline, shown in the Vampire Princess of the Lost Country arc, the population of Inveria was mysteriously turned into zombies. The only exception was Kino Phasrus Invern, who became an intelligent undead. 40 years later, Kino met Ainz, who introduced himself as Suzuki Satoru. He tried to help her search for a way to undo the curse, but found nothing. They believed an undead caster in the palace might be responsible, but after subjugating it, they discovered it was only an investigator. Eventually, Ainz learned that the Elder Coffin Dragonlord had caused the undead transformation. The dragon gathered undead bodies to increase its strength. Ainz defeated the dragon, but it did not restore the zombified people. Later in the anime, when Blue Roses fled the Re-Estize Kingdom, Climb asked where they would go. Evil Eye said they were heading to the ruins of a fallen capital in the southeast. While never directly stated, it is implied this was Inveria. Dwarf Kingdom. The Dwarf Kingdom is a nation of dwarves living inside the Azarlesia Mountains. The dwarves built their cities in earthen halls underground. For a long time, they were in conflict with the native Quagua tribes. This only changed when they made a trade deal with Ainz. The Dwarf Kingdom was once the center of runecraft. In the past, runesmiths were highly respected, but 200 years ago, new forms of magic arrived. Since tier magic was far more efficient, runecraft has nearly been forgotten. The kingdom faced danger when a massive army of Quagua attacked. At that time, Ainz had arrived as an envoy. Ainz agreed to help them, and his forces defeated the Quagua. Later, the Regency Council met with Ainz to discuss trade. He offered to provide undead labor and soldiers in exchange for profits. He also proposed to retake the ancient capital, Fio-Percana, from the Quagua and Frost Dragons. In exchange, the dwarves would hand over all remaining runesmiths to the Sorcerer Kingdom. Dragon Kingdom. The Dragon Kingdom is a human nation in the New World. It was founded by the Brightness Dragonlord. Basically, he took a human mate and began the royal family line. Because of this, the royal family inherited his blood and gained access to wild magic. The Dragon Kingdom is currently ruled by Dragon Queen Draudilon. The kingdom, however, is constantly under attack from the neighboring Beastman Country. At first, the Beastmen raided the kingdom just to capture humans, but in recent years, those raids have turned into full-scale invasions. They've already taken several cities, and their ultimate goal is to conquer the Dragon Kingdom before moving on to other human lands. Because of this threat, the Dragon Kingdom asked the Slane Theocracy and the Baharuth Empire for help. They spend huge amounts of money to keep Beastmen attacks under control. They donate large sums of them every year, so the Theocracy often sends them scripture squads. Even so, the results were tragic. Draudilon believes that all the money they spent only helped lower the number of casualties. In the Volume 15 prologue, the Dragon Kingdom established formal relations with the Sorcerer Kingdom. They even brought undead soldiers to help in the war against the Beastmen. This change weakened their ties with the Slane Theocracy, but made their diplomatic relationship with the Sorcerer Kingdom stronger. Gatenbarg, also known as Gatenbarg, was a human nation that had once existed in the New World. Roughly 300 years ago, that country set up a message network between its cities to increase the speed of information transfer. In Overlord, message was a very unreliable way of transmitting information. The longer the distance between you and the receiver, the less clear the message becomes. Even the Empire did not place its trust in this communication method. Gatenbarg was a humanoid nation ruled by magic casters. Due to their over-reliance on message, it fell into chaos after receiving just 3 false reports. The cities warred against each other. On top of that, they were attacked by monsters and demi-humans. In the end, the country perished. What happened is that bards spread stories of husbands hurting their wives after being told of their betrayal, only for the men to later discover the accusations were false. Roble Holy Kingdom. The Roble Holy Kingdom is a human nation that borders the demi-human-filled Appalachian Hills. Because of that, the Holy Kingdom often faces invasions. The country's territory stretches around a central bay, which naturally splits its forces into 2 armies, the Northern Holy Kingdom Army and the Southern Holy Kingdom Army. On top of that, the Holy Kingdom built the Great Wall to guard against demi-human raids. The problem is that the wall is so long and the population is so small that every able-bodied citizen is required to serve in the military once they reach the proper age, regardless of gender. Boys who reached the age where they were allowed to carry weapons would be called up by the country. Priests and disciples can use holy magic, usually up to the 3rd tier, and some can even go higher. They're also capable of summoning angels. Because paladins form the backbone of society, most citizens have deep prejudice towards demi-humans. The Holy Kingdom's army is divided into several groups, each with its own role. The 9 colors are 9 elite warriors chosen by the Holy Sovereign. The Paladin Order specializes in fighting monsters. The Northern and Southern armies defend their respective borders, while the Holy Kingdom Navy is unusually large compared to other nations. After Jaldabaoth's invasion, survivors of the Northern Army formed the Holy Kingdom Liberation Army. In the movie Overlord, The Holy Kingdom, Jaldabaoth invaded the Great Wall with an army of demi-humans. The Holy Kingdom's arguably strongest, Grandmaster Remedios and High Priestess Kalart, were no match for Jaldabaoth. In the end, both Kalart and Queen Kalka were killed. With no other choice, the Paladin Order and a squire named Nia turned to the Sorcerer Kingdom for help. Ainz agreed, but he staged things carefully. He pretended to be defeated by Jaldabaoth, disappeared for a time, and let Nia and Shizu reclaim Kalinsha and even rescue BBZ, the Prince of the Zern. When he finally returned, Ainz struck the finishing blow on Jaldabaoth. With Nia spreading Ainz's own brand of justice, Ainz gained a massive following in the Holy Kingdom. After Jaldabaoth's defeat and the death of Queen Kalka, Prince Caspond was set to become the next Holy King. However, the real Caspond was replaced by a doppelganger serving the Sorcerer Kingdom. In fact, Demiurge orchestrated the entire sequence of events from the very beginning. The Karsana City-State Alliance lies east of the Baharuth Empire. It's made up of 12 independent city-states, each with its own ruler, but bound together under one alliance. While some cities have many humans, the alliance as a whole is home to many races, meaning humans are not the majority population. The Karsana City-State Alliance traces its roots back to a powerful nation that collapsed centuries ago. When it fell, 14 city-states rose in its place, each centered around a major city. These states fought, split, and reunited many times until an event called the Great Debate finally brought 12 of them together into the alliance we see today. Even so, old grudges remain. Long-lived races still remember the past wars. To help ease those tensions, the alliance holds a massive tournament every 5 years. It features 16 events, and leaving out even one has in the past caused riots. The highlight of the tournament is the Conneliere, where each city sends 10 of its strongest fighters to battle. Interestingly, King Ramposa considered the City-State Alliance a possible refuge for Zanak and Rainier, though neither chose to flee there. Today, the alliance is made up of 12 cities: Karksanas, Pepo-Alo, East Gaich, West Gaich, Veneria, Greater Asterin, Oaknease, New Oaknease, Gronwitz, Lee, Franklin, and Bibard. However, the alliance now faces constant attacks from the Equestrian King, Beastman Commonwealth. The Beastman Commonwealth is a demi-human nation located on the central continent. It was formed when several Beastman tribes united under a single banner, though its true origins and first ruler are unknown. Before the massive event at Kot's Plains, the Commonwealth had already launched a major invasion against the Great Minotaur Nation. The Commonwealth is famous for its golem cavalry. In the New World, golems are exceedingly rare. Even creating the weakest wooden golem demands the effort of several of the most skilled magic casters working for an entire year. Stronger golems, therefore, are devastating weapons. The Commonwealth possessed 4 colossal centaur-type golems, each 8 meters tall. Over time, the number doubled to 8. These golems proved to be overwhelming in battle, and if not for the legendary weapons left behind by the Minotaur Sage, the Great Minotaur Nation would have been completely destroyed. But just as humans have several countries, Beastmen do as well. Beastman Country. The Beastman Country is a demi-human nation composed of multiple Beastman tribes, located near the Dragon Kingdom. Legend says that long ago, Soul Eaters, undead monsters that devour souls, appeared in one of its cities. For centuries, the Beastman Country treated the Dragon Kingdom as a self-replenishing hunting ground. But in recent years, the Beastmen finally launched a full-scale invasion. 3 cities have already fallen, with their ultimate goal being the conquest of the Dragon Kingdom before turning their sights on other human nations. Beastmen are bipedal demi-humans resembling carnivorous animals like lions and tigers. Their diet is exclusively meat, and by that, I don't mean regular meat. According to Overlord Volume 9 Intermission, the Beastman Country is among the most powerful nations of the continent. This strength came from their physical abilities, which far surpass those of humans. On average, an adult Beastman is said to possess physical parameters 10 times greater than a human. If a human averages a rating of 3, a Beastman is rated at 30. The only mitigating factor is that few Beastmen rise above their already formidable baseline. Because their physical strength is already high, exceptional individuals are rare. Even so, fighting them requires adventurers of the highest caliber, including adamantite ranked ones, just to keep their forces in check. Aina Miscegenation League. The Aina Miscegenation League was Inveria's eastern neighbor. Around 40 years ago, the people of Aina Miscegenation League, along with 3 other nations, suddenly turned into zombies. During the undead disaster, they blocked off every road that led into the League and set up constant patrols. Clearly, the goal is to keep both the living and the undead away from the quarantined land. In the Vampire Princess of the Lost Country arc, Ainz and Kino decided to enter this cursed land. Because of the heavy patrols guarding the borders, Ainz had to use teleportation just to sneak inside. Their destination was Sorcerer No. 3, one of the Aina League's largest cities. But when they got there, it was completely empty. Originally, the Aina League was formed from the union of many races, including highly intelligent giants. Back in its prime, Sorcerer No. 3 was one of the biggest cities in the whole region, holding over 400,000 people. But after the undead disaster, the place was abandoned. The Orc Nation is one of the demi-human countries in the New World. You see, in the central regions of the continent, humanoid species sit at the bottom of society. Travelers might technically be granted some rights, but in practice, these nations are dangerous places for humans and other humanoids. Kino learned this firsthand. The Orc Nation is infamous for its dark food markets. In fact, many of the central nations treat humanoids as little more than livestock, making them especially hostile to those with human-like appearances. Kino herself once encountered such a situation in the Orc Nation, where she was mistaken for an escaped meal being sold on the market. She escaped only by violently defending herself. Slutarn. Slutarn is one of the nations located within the Dolar Desert, also known as the D. Gavorsa Desert, a vast wasteland situated southwest of the continent's center. The desert was once part of a great empire that dominated the region. Although the Dolar Desert is a dry land, it receives periodic rainfall due to unique natural factors. This has allowed various races and monsters to inhabit the area despite its harsh conditions. In the Vampire Princess of the Lost Country arc, Slutarn is briefly mentioned as a nation of genies. The Great Kingdom of Pabilsac is one of the non-humanoid nations of the Dolar Desert. Like Slutarn, it is counted among the desert kingdoms that arose after the fall of the Great Empire that once ruled the region. The inhabitants of the Great Kingdom of Pabilsac are Scorpion Men. Great Minotaur Nation. In the distant past, humans within the nation were regarded as things on top of the plate. Over time, this practice shifted into forced labor, largely due to the reforms of the Minotaur Sage. The Minotaur sage lived more than 200 years ago and is remembered for introducing the concept of modern household conveniences into the New World, things like refrigerators and fans. However, while he proposed such innovations, he had no ability to craft them or explain how they worked. Because of this, he was mockingly given the name All-Talk Sage. Despite that, many believe he was actually a player from Yggdrasil. The nation's survival in the modern era is credited to the weapons left behind by the Minotaur sage. These weapons were instrumental in repelling the invasion of the Beastman Commonwealth, whose massive golems otherwise would have annihilated the Minotaurs. Even King Ramposa once admitted that the Minotaur method of cutting open the body to remove infections, essentially surgery, might be the best way to cure the Re-Estize corruption. During her travels, Kino also encountered the nation. Here, she was forced to experience life as a servant. Basically, she let the ones who tried to enslave her experience servant life by themselves and asked them how it felt. Troll Kingdom is a demi-human nation located in the central continent, populated mainly by trolls and orcs. It is counted among the 6 great nations of the region. In this part of the continent, humans sit at the very bottom of the food chain. Of the 6 nations, 3 openly regarded humans as nothing more than food. The Troll Kingdom was among the worst of them. Within the Troll Kingdom, 6-month-old livestock, still in the womb, was regarded as a luxury meal, something the trolls would proudly serve to honored guests. Argland Council State. The Argland Council State is a powerful demi-human nation, one of the 2 great superpowers, rivaled mainly by the Slane Theocracy. Argland is a land where humans are the minority. In fact, they make up less than a tenth of the population, with the majority being demi-humans. This is because 200 years ago, after the defeat of the evil deities, the Platinum Dragon Lord St. Dorcius Vicion, one of the 13 heroes, founded the Council State as part of his experiment in creating mixed communities. True to his name, the nation is ruled by a council. Each race has a representative chosen by popular vote. The system is not without exceptions, however. While most races are limited to single seat, the dragons hold a privileged position. 5 Dragon Lords, known collectively as the 5 Dragon Counselors, sit permanently on the council. According to the web novel, even races often treated as outcasts elsewhere, such as goblins and ogres, have a place in their ranks. Beyond land dwellers, aquatic races like sea lizardmen and mermen are also counted among its members. It is one of the few nations still connected to wild magic through its dragons, and its military includes dragon knights. The country's adventurer population is predominantly demi-human, with several parties said to rival the strength of blue roses. Ainz himself noted that Nazarick would have to be especially cautious when dealing with Argland. Politically, the Council State has shown an interest in fighting the Sorcerer Kingdom with Re-Estize. At one point, they entered negotiations with the Re-Estize Kingdom to form an alliance, though those talks ultimately failed. Even so, Dorcas attempted to assassinate Ainz, who was actually Pandora's actor in disguise. The Guols Empire, also known as the Garvorsa Empire, was once a powerful nation that ruled the heart of the Dolar Desert. However, it no longer exists in the present day. You see, every 30 years a gigantic tornado shows up in the Dolar Desert. It's huge, thousands of meters wide, and so tall that no one can ever see the top. What makes it even stranger is that it always appears in the exact same place and almost at the exact same time, every single time. People believe it came from a magical ritual the Guols Empire tried to perform, but they did it poorly, and it went terribly wrong. Some even say it had something to do with a powerful magic item called the Scepter of the Sands, or maybe it was the birth of a great monster called the Mushusu. Whatever the case, the Empire couldn't control what they unleashed, and eventually the whole nation collapsed. Even today, parts of the Empire's old capital can sometimes be seen sticking out from beneath the desert sands. Adventurers and scholars have tried to explore the tornado and figure out what's really going on, but no one who has ever entered it has come back. Some think the tornado is actually an isekai gateway, while others believe it's just unstable magic that never goes away. Soba. The Soba Empire is a nation located in the eastern regions of the New World. It lies geographically to the east of the large walled city, which is recognized as the first confirmed giant settlement in the New World. In the Vampire Princess of the Lost Country arc, Chapter 3, the mercenary pathfinders chose to move on from the area after taking on so many jobs that they stirred resentment from local mercenaries. Hearing that the Tsar of the Eastern countries was recruiting, the group decided to head towards Soba. While little is known about the Empire itself, it is clear that Soba has been actively recruiting skilled mercenaries. Sorcerer Kingdom. The Sorcerer Kingdom is perhaps the most powerful nation in the New World, and it's ruled by the Sorcerer King himself, Ainz. Ainz says he wants to turn his kingdom into a peaceful place where all races can live together, almost like a utopia. The thing is, many of his followers misunderstood what he actually wanted. You see, Ainz once joked about world domination, The problem is, his servants, especially Demiurge, took that joke very seriously. From then on, they believed Ainz's great plan was to conquer the entire world. Before the Sorcerer Kingdom even existed, Ainz carefully laid the groundwork. His first big move was saving Karn village from the attackers from the Slane Theocracy. Not only did he protect the villagers, but he also captured some of the attackers to learn more about the new world. To gather even more information, he and his subordinates spread out. Ainz disguised with Narbaral Galma as the adventurers Momon and Nabe to sneak into the Adventurer Guild. At the same time, Sebas and Solution were busy in the Re-Estize Kingdom, Demiurge went scouting in the Roble Holy Kingdom, and Shoutier was capturing bandits to study the unique powers of the new world. Of course, not everything went smoothly. The Shoutier incident where she was placed under mind control made Nazarick's NPCs more ambitious and paranoid than before. Their desire to expand Ainz's influence and power grew even stronger. This soon led to the Lizardman campaign. Ainz sent Cocytus to wipe them out and turn their corpses into undead soldiers. However, Cocytus requested that they live under Nazarick's rule instead. At one point, Demiurge disguised himself as Jaldabaoth and led an attack on the capital of the Re-Estize Kingdom. The Pleiades battlemates posed as his demonic followers, while Ainz acted as Momon and fought Jaldabaoth in public. This made Momon look like a national hero and spread Ainz's fame across the human nations. Soon after, Ainz brought the great magic caster Fluter under his control. In the end, the Baharuth Empire had no choice but to become a vassal of the Sorcerer Kingdom. Around the same time, Irantel, once part of the Re-Estize Kingdom, officially surrendered and became the capital of the Sorcerer Kingdom. Life inside the Sorcerer Kingdom was very different from other nations. Death Knights patrolled the streets, Elder Liches worked as city officials, and even Soul Eaters were used to pull heavy wagons. Demiurge also secretly took control of the Abyline Hills and forced the demi-human tribes there to unite into a single army. He then used that army to invade the Roble Holy Kingdom, which was turned into a puppet state under the Sorcerer Kingdom's control. Later, when the Re-Estize Kingdom finally collapsed, its lands were also absorbed into Ainz's growing empire. Economically, the Sorcerer Kingdom had something pretty unusual to offer: undead workers. These skeletons and zombies didn't get tired, didn't need food, and worked non-stop. It was cheap and efficient, so other nations started buying them. Obviously, one of the biggest reasons the Sorcerer Kingdom is feared is because of its overwhelming military power. Most of the inhabitants are non-human beings, each with monstrous abilities that go far beyond what humans or even demi-humans can hope to match. The Sorcerer Kingdom also has something even scarier in its arsenal, such as world items. These are legendary treasures so powerful that they can change the course of entire battles. The Floor Guardians, who obviously are some of Nazarick's strongest characters, have access to them. Because of this, Nazarick itself is considered nearly impossible to conquer. Ainz even believed that with its current defenses, Nazarick could hold off around 30 level 100 players at once. And with the world items on their side, Nazarick is pretty much unbreakable. Inside Nazarick, monsters are constantly spawning on their own, from the smallest ones at level 1 up to much stronger ones at level 30. On top of that, Nazarick can also call upon mercenary monsters that are even stronger than that, as long as they pay with Yggdrasil gold. And then you have the special divisions that make up its military structure, like the Floor Guardians, the Area Guardians, and the Pleiades Battlemaids. And since we just mentioned the Pleiades Battlemaids, which one's your favorite? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see every single one of them explained, click on the video on the screen before Nazarick closes its gates.